Hi my beautiful family, followers and visitors of my channel The Nature of Things. I am very happy to be able to share with you a new motivational and mental health video. I do it with the intention that each of us become better person every day and live happier. The topic of this video is a very interesting and comprehensive one. It is a top topic for happiness and mental health of all. We are talking about thought as a goodness object or badness in people. A popular saying goes, as a person thinks in his heart, so is he. It does not mean that everyone is the same, but is so too that it reaches most of people in certain circumstances of their life. A person is literally what he thinks, being his character, the complete sum of all his thoughts. Let's say that a person's thought is like a planted seed. From that seed a tree grows and that tree bears fruit. In the person, the thought first lies inside like a seed, then it materializes and finally the result comes. This result is bad or good depending on the quality of the thought. The results of the thought, bad or good, not only impact the environment of the person possessing it, but also to the person himself. The English writer James Allen once wrote the following letters. The thought in the mind has made us what we are. Through thought our character was built. If a person's mind has evil thoughts, pain comes to him as the wheel comes after the ox. If one endures in the purity of thought, joy follows him like his own shadow. People forge or destroy themselves in the quality of their thoughts. They also forge the tools which they build for themselves heavenly mansions of joy, strength and peace. By right way of thinking and true application of it, people ascend to divine perfection. On the other hand, abuse and misapplication of thoughts, they descend down to the deepest and darkest abyss. Between these two extremes lie all level of character, and people are their maker and teacher. On all the beautiful truths regarding the soul that have been uncovered in this era, none is more apt at incorrect than what this says. Man is the master of thought, the shaper of character, and the creator of condition, environment, and destiny. People as beings of power, intelligence, love, and lords of their own thoughts, they hold the key to every situation and contain in themselves the transforming and regenerative agency by which they can make of themselves whatever they want. So as the mines get dig to the deepest to find and extract gold and diamonds, so people can dig into the profound of their thoughts to find all the truths related to their being. If you monitor, control, and disrupt your thoughts, tracing its effects on yourself and others, linking cause and effect through patient practice and investigation, and using all your experiences as a means of gaining that self-knowledge that is understanding, wisdom, and power. So, in this direction, is absolute the law that says, who seeks, finds, and who knocks, it will get opened, because only through patience and practice a person can pass through the gate of the temple of knowledge. A person's mind can be compared to a garden, which can be intelligently cultivated or left wild, but whether cultivated or neglected, it must produce something and will produce something. If useful seeds are not planted in it, an abundance of useless weeds will grow on it, which will continue to reproduce itself. It means, fill your mind with good thoughts and good actions will emerge from you. On the opposite way, if your mind is empty of good thoughts, it will be invaded by bad thoughts, and these will get multiplied in your head and be reflected in your actions. In that same way, so as a gardener cultivates his garden, keeping it free of weeds, and growing the flowers and fruits he needs, so a man can tend the garden of his mind, eliminating all erroneous, useless, and impure thoughts, and cultivating towards perfection the flowers and fruits of correct, useful, and pure thoughts. On that way, man discovers, sooner or later, that he is the master gardener his soul, the director of his life. He also reveals himself the laws of thought and understands with increasing precision how the power of thought and the mind operate in the formation of his character, circumstances, and destiny. Thoughts and character are one, and as character can only be manifested and discovered through environment and circumstances, the external conditions of a person's life will always be harmoniously related to his inner state. This does not mean that a person's circumstances at any certain time are an indication of his entire character, but that those circumstances are, most of the time, intimately connected with some vital element of thought within him. Every person is where he is by his nature of being. The thoughts that he has incorporated into his character have taken him there, and on his way of leaving there is not element of chance, but everything is the result of a law that can't be wrong. This is as true for those who disagree with their environment as it is for those who are happy with it. As progressive and evolutionary beings, people are where they are to learn to grow, and as they learn the spiritual lesson that any circumstance contains for it, it rises to other circumstances. In other words, if you plant a tree and do not water it, then it dries up. If you are in a bad situation and you don't do what is necessary to improve it, then each day will get worse. Bad situations do not change to good without something is being done to change it. On the other hand, if your situation is good and you are comfortable where you are, then you should be cautious and make sure it always stays that way or improves as the days go by. If you neglect it, it will change from good to bad. Good circumstances change to bad with the simple act of neglecting it and not feeding it. Let's keep the garden example. A clean and flowering garden is a delight to the eye. For your garden to keep clean and pleasant, you have to work on it every day so that weeds do not invade it. If you neglect it, the weeds will fill it even if you have not planted it, and your garden will go from being pleasant to unpleasant. It is no more clean and pretty because you neglected it. On the other hand, a dirty, neglected, and overgrown garden is not going to change its circumstances unless its owner cleans it and plants flowers. So people's minds are filled with bad thoughts just by not engaging in right thoughts. The soul attracts what it secretly harbors, what it loves, and also what it fears. It reaches the height of its cherished aspirations. It falls to the level of its unpunished desires, and circumstances are the means by which the soul receives its own. Every thought sown or dropped into the mind, and that take root there, produces its own effects, blooming, sooner or later, into action, and bearing its own fruit of opportunity and circumstance. Good thoughts bear good fruit, bad thoughts bear bad fruit. A person does not fall into vices, poorness, or go to prison due to the tyranny of destiny or circumstances, but because of the way of low thoughts and bad desires. And either a pure-minded person suddenly fall into crime due to power of external forces. The criminal thought had been secretly fostered in the heart for long, and the time to reveal its magnific gathered power. The circumstance does not make the man, it reveals him to himself. There cannot be conditions such to descent to vice and its sufferings without vicious inclinations, or ascending to virtue and its pure happiness without the continuous cultivation of virtuous aspirations. And man, therefore, as Lord and Master of thought, he is the maker of himself, the shaper and author of his environment. People don't attract what they want, but what they are. The divinity that shapes our goals is within ourselves. It is our own being. Man is only bound by himself. Thought and action are the jailers of destiny. It imprisoned by being vile. It is also the angels of freedom. It liberates us by being noble. Man does not obtain what he desires and prays for, but what he fairly earns. Your wishes and prayers are only gratified and answered when it harmonizes with your thoughts and actions. Men are eager to improve their circumstances, but they are unwilling to improve themselves. Therefore they keep being bound. The man who does not refuse self-crucifixion can never fail to achieve the objective on which his heart is set. This is true for earthly things as well as heavenly things. Even the man whose only goal is to acquire wealth must be prepared to make great personal sacrifices before he can achieve his goal. So then, how much more must sacrifice who wants to lead a strong and well-disposed life? Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, said, "All people want to live happily, but they are unable to realize what makes life happy." What Seneca wanted to say, is that the fact of just wishing to be happy is not going to bring us happiness, but we have to go deep into ourselves and discover what really makes us happy. Here is a good example of a miserably poor person, is that one who is extremely anxious to improve his surroundings and the comforts of his home, but all the time shirks his work, and considers right to try to deceive his employer with the argument of insufficient salary. Such a person like that then does not understand the simplest rudiments of the principles that are the basis of true prosperity, and is not only totally unable to extricate himself from his misery, but is actually attracting even deeper misery to himself to his deceitful thoughts. Another example of extreme poor person, a rich man who is a victim of a painful and persistent illness, a result of gluttony. He is willing to pay big sums of money to get rid of it, but he will not sacrifice his gluttonous desires. He wants to satisfy his taste for rich and unnatural foods and also maintain his health. Such a man like that is totally unable of a healthy existence because he has not learned yet the first principles of healthy living. I have chosen these two examples just as an illustration of the truth that man is the shaper, although almost always unconsciously, of his circumstances, and while he intends to a good end, he is continually frustrating its realization by fostering thoughts and desires that cannot be harmonized to that end. Such as cases like that could be multiplied and varied almost indefinitely, but this is not necessary, since who listens to me could, if willing, trace the action of the laws of thought in his own mind and in his life. And until this does not completely done, external facts cannot be good as basis for reasoning. The circumstances, however, are so complicated. Thought is so deeply rooted, and the conditions of happiness vary enormously with individuals, that the whole mental condition of a person cannot be judged by another person from the external aspect of his life only. A person can be honest in certain directions, and so still suffer shortcomings. A person may be dishonest in certain directions, and so still acquire wealth, but the conclusion usually formed is that a person fails because of his particular honesty, and that the other person prospers because of his particular dishonesty. This is the result of a superficial judgment, which assumes that the dishonest person is almost totally corrupt, and the honest person almost totally virtuous. Good thoughts and actions can never produce bad results, while bad thoughts and actions can never produce good results. This is nothing more than saying that nothing can come out of corn but corn. Men understand this law in the natural world, and work with it, but few understand it in the mental and moral world, although its operation there is also so simple and undeviating, and therefore they do not cooperate with it. Suffering is always the effect of wrong thinking in some direction. It is an indication that the individual is not in harmony with himself or with the law of his being. The only and supreme usefulness of suffering is to purify, to burn everything that is useless and impure. Suffering stops for those who are pure. There would be no point in burning the gold after the dross had been removed, and a perfectly pure and enlightened being could not suffer. The circumstances that a person suffer are the result of his own mental disharmony. The circumstances that a person get blessed are the result of his own mental harmony. Blessing, not material possessions, is the measure of right thinking. Misery, not lack of material possessions, is the measure of wrong thinking. A man can be evil and rich, and he can also be blessed and poor. Bliss and wealth go together only when richness is used correctly and wisely, and the poor people only descend into misery when they consider their luck as an unjustly imposed. Indigence and indulgence are the two extremes of misery. Both are equally unnatural and the result of a mental disorder. A person is not well conditioned until he is a happy, healthy and prosperous being, and happiness, health and prosperity is the result of a harmonious adjustment of the internal with the external of the person with his environment. A man can only begin to be a man when he stops complaining and blaming, and starts to seek the hidden justice that control his life. And as you adapt your mind to that regulating factor, you stop accusing others as the cause of your bad condition and build yourself up in strong and noble thoughts. Stop going against circumstances, but begin to use it as help to your faster progress and as a way to discover the powers and hidden possibilities within yourself. Law, and not confusion, is the dominant principle in the universe. Justice, not injustice, is the soul and substance of life. And righteousness, not corruption, is the power that shapes and moves the spiritual government of the world. Being so, people have only to go direct to discover that the universe is right, and in the process of going that way, they will find that as they change their thoughts toward things and other people will get changed towards them. We end this intervention with these words: you will be what you decide to be. Let failure find its wrong content. Thank you for staying with me until the end of the video. I hope it helps you improve your life. If you liked it, please hit like, subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends. Meet you next video.